Solitaire, I said this before we started. I feel like, of course, I'm talking to royalty here. How does it feel knowing that you are an architect when it comes to hip hop, Canadian music? Knowing that not just being somebody in front of the microphone, but somebody behind the scenes and working with so many artists and knowing that you're helping to bring a stage into a form of music that was told that it was not going to be successful. It was not supposed to happen. It was supposed to be a fad. And then, of course, here we are. We're celebrating, of course, 50 years of this, man. How does it feel?
You know, it's one of those situations in life where when you're constantly working, you're involved in creating, you're working with creatives, and not to mention just being heavily involved in working with the community, I don't really have the time to stop and smell those flowers. You feel me?
Yeah.
And honestly, I've always been somebody that when it comes to, putting things out into the world, whether it's through music or through service, I don't really wait around for the thank yous or the acknowledgement, except for the people that it's touched. I'm always grateful when people come up to me and say, yo, Solitaire, man, easy to slip. Like, it's a classic. You're a legend. It's like, when you get those accolades from the people, I graciously and humbly accept that. But as far as like taking the time to reflect on like the impact that I've had, I guess I don't do that as often perhaps as I should, but I love to get the acknowledgement from the people. That always touches me the most anyway.
One of the things I always loved, just recently seeing the Play the Music documentary, and talking about what everybody was going through back then and how that was such a staple point in people trying to get their vinyl and bringing in the music. Where were you for yourself at that time period in developing the person who you would become, even before the name? During that time, who were you back then, and how were you developing what would become legendary?
We were connoisseurs of the music. We were fans of the artists. We were disciples of the culture. So I can say, speaking for myself, I wasn't really necessarily thinking about, oh, we're on a legendary path. We were more so enamored with the fact that were able to like touch the fans, that they responded to our music. I mean, it's a blessing. You put music out into the world, you don't really know how people are going to react or what, how it's going to touch their lives. So I was not thinking about, what this is how it's gonna reflect on looking back. I think that wisdom of that perspective came much later on in my career, once you start to, achieve certain accomplishments. But we were just kids having fun. We loved the music. We pushed each other to be better. Like when we're in the studio, whether it was writing rhymes or creating beats or writing songs for other people, collaborating with each other. And that's what we were focused on. Like we were not yes men at all. We were very critical of what we were all doing. So it was almost like our own creative filtering process. So I wanted to just impress my friends. Really, when it comes down to it, it just so happens that my friends and my contemporaries as artists are, happen to compose one of the most legendary crews in Canadian hip hop history. So it was like that elevated the quality of what we were doing instantly, because it's like you're comparing yourself to future legends, at the time. So that was really all it was. We were trying to make the best music and impress ourselves with it. And then that obviously translated to the fans' appreciation, because we were appreciating and critiquing our music as fans. If you feel me. So I think that was really what my headspace at that time.
When you have Mishi, when you have Rascals, when you have great example Cardi, and see what Cardi has become, an executive, a TV mogul, so many different aspects. But then knowing back then, trying to get radio play was
Right.
virtually impossible.
Right.
Who are these people? What? Like, it was insane. Talk about the personal feelings on what that was like, to the point where when the Rascals were supposed to receive their Junos, they took a stand and said,
Mm.
nah,
Mm.
don't want it. Keep it for yourself.
Yeah. We were, I mean, the hip hop is part of rebel culture. It's part of street culture. It comes from street culture. It comes from marginalization. So that lack of acknowledgement on a mainstream radio level, I think, didn't really, I didn't really pontificate about it at the time, because we
Mhm.
did have community radio, college radio, that was very supportive in terms of
Yes.
developing the scene and creating that structure. So when Flow came along, that was definitely pivotal in recognizing the draw and the popularity of hip hop music. So we were able, because we had a great team, whether it was Figure Four, Mr. Morgan, Dave, the Shocklers manager at the time. Like, we were getting our records out to like college and university stations in the US as well as across Canada. And
Mhm.
that was the fan base that built us up. And I think by the time commercial radio came into the picture, and when commercial mainstream radio stations in Canada started to play like I guess the biggest American hip hop artists, that where hip hop became pop music, it was a natural transition for us to elevate, because we had already been honing our craft. So it's almost like they were playing catch up.
Yeah.
It was a situation for the city to have a dedicated mainstream urban black music radio station, but it wasn't like, it never elevated to the point where there was a station, a black music station, a hip hop focused station that actually broke artists in Canada and was the kind of the farm team or the hub for you know taking artists to the next level or breaking new artists. Commercial radio in Canada was never that outlet. So it kind of was more chasing the culture than curating the culture. So as time went on, it was great to have a black owned urban radio station 24/7 mainstream. But then as time evolved and you recognize the problems that come with that,
Yeah.
and then the opportunities that streaming offered to independent artists, it's almost like long story short, that's a whole other conversation, but long story short, mainstream radio in Canada is not as impactful and influential as it is in America. It doesn't mean as much to hip hop to have a dedicated station here, unless it is like from top to bottom, from the CEO all the way down to the workers, are actually entrenched and embrace the culture. You know what I mean? And I think there's people who work at the stations who are the active front lines that represent the culture, but I don't think Canada has ever had that.
No.
And in America, that's all they have. There's definitely, it's a different dynamic. So yeah, it's not really integral to have commercial radio play in Canada as a hip hop artist as ever, really,
And
unfortunately.
I know when myself working at 680 News as a music reporter, I always did what I could to get artists like yourselves on
Yep.
and being heard in a different type of
Yeah.
format. It wasn't always easy. Was
I,
not
I
always
I
easy,
can
and I would
only
have the
imagine.
fights,
Yeah.
but I'm glad I did, because one of the things that I enjoyed recently, going to the Legacy Awards
Mm,
and
mhm,
seeing everybody together
mhm.
and knowing I'm looking at this person and going to myself, I had a hard time trying to get you on my station, but I got you on, and look at you here now. and looking over at the next person going, man, do you remember the struggles that we had when we were trying to do so and so? And I'm looking over at this person, knowing that I would have to go in a hallway between the washroom and outside to do an interview because that was the only place we could do it because we couldn't do it at the station or, you know, because that was the only place we had. Everybody had such a struggle, but being there showed the struggle in some ways, or in a lot of ways, it paid off. How do you think that it has grown to the stage where we are today, where you are a successful producer, but also, I can use that word with you, legend?
I think, you know, you have to take pride in the journey. I've been grateful. I've been very, very blessed for a long time to be associated with the level of talent that I've been associated with. And that has really contributed a lot. I always let my friends know as often as I can, like I am a sum of their influence in my life. You know, both my friends who are not even in the music industry, and then my musical friends who are like my family. You know, so my status is a reflection of their influence in my life. You know, with who I am as a person and who I am as an artist. So I take that with me, and I try to, you know, and I think that has really inspired a lot of people from subsequent generations. You know, there's some people who would remark that hip hop has declined, or the quality of music, or there's so much like crappy artists nowadays. And I disagree. I think that there's the same amount of trash today as there was when we were coming up. The difference is they didn't have a means, you know, there was way more, the cost of entry, the barrier to entry into the music industry was way higher. You couldn't just open up a Spotify account, you know, go to whoever, you know, a digital distributor and like put your stuff online without getting any feedback from anybody. So it's like the quality control mechanism is no longer there. So we're exposed to more of the people who haven't really developed and evolved as artists, and like, you know, competing for the airtime with people who are, you know. So as far as our influence on that, it shows every time an artist, like especially anybody who's under the age of 30 who comes up to me and says, yo, you're a legend, like, you know, we're reflecting on, you know, songs that we released like over 20 years ago and how it's influenced them, and how, you know, shouts out to Drake, you know, obviously he is standing on the shoulders of a lot of the, you know, people like yourself and myself who were in the trenches creating this platform so that he can soar the way he is. But you know, there's a lot of artists who are part of that, raising the scene to where it is right now. And yeah, I think it's an honor to be mentioned in that conversation and be considered a legend, because honestly, it's like sometimes there's a little bit of what they call it, imposter syndrome, like legend, wow, you know, like really people. But again, you know, you have to graciously accept the compliments that are bestowed upon you by people who are fans or curators of the culture. So I'm just grateful that my music is still being able to be received in that way.
So what's the difference between you as a producer than you as the artist? What's the difference? And when I say the artist, I mean, of course, when you are writing, producing, and releasing your music, the producer working with other artists that maybe there's music that you wrote that you want for them to work with. What's the difference?
And that's exactly the difference right there. I think there was a time in my life I started off learning how to produce as a hip hop producer. My influences were Pete Rock, you know, DJ Premier, later on Timbaland, you know, and that's where my producer sensibilities and what I learned about what a producer does, it was in the context of hip hop. But as I went along and you start to learn and travel and explore the possibilities as a producer, my palette opened up as far as what I was capable of doing. And it was, at the time, as I started to learn more about the industry and I started to like write melodies. I've always loved melodies. I've always loved what they call pop music. Like
Mhm.
I'm a connoisseur of music regardless of genre. Obviously, my culture that it was entrenched in and I'm a disciple of is hip hop, but I love R&B. I love like straight up pop songs if it's like a Taylor Swift song that's hot or Britney Spears or whoever. So I started writing melodies and stuff for R&B artists that I was working with, and once they started gravitating to work that I was doing, I knew that what I was capable of was bigger. So as a producer, my I no longer I say that my music sensibilities is rooted in hip hop. I approach music production and songwriting with that hat on, with that lens on my camera. But what it turns into could be reggae, it could be dance hall, it could be, R&B, it could be Afro beats. So that's the difference, me as a producer, but then me as an artist, like with this project Dangerous Art Volume 1, those songs are basically an homage to my day one fans who listen to like, oh, I remember Silver Surfer, I remember No Doubt, I remember Streets on Fire, and all those hip hop classics. That was for them. Beats and rhymes and my personality and then my perspective on like social justice issues, representing for the community. So that's who I am as an artist, even though I also sing and I also do other things as an artist as well. But the producer lens, I feel like I could work with I could work with Shania Twain or I could work with Waka Flocka, and it's about finding the right elements that bring out who they are as artists and reflect my versatility as a producer. So I'd say that would be the difference.
Now you already gave out the name of this great new recording that you have out right now. How do you put something together like this when you have these factors to deal with? Number one, we know the hits, and people are stuck on the hits. They always want to hear the hits. You can go out, perform new music, people are going to scream, yeah, but I want to hear blah, blah, blah. How do you do that?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
also, how do you represent yourself in today's fashion of the new beats that are going on, like Afro beats and things like that? How do you represent your new music today that you want to get out, knowing that people still want to hear the hits?
Finding new fans is always the biggest challenge. I think is probably one of the biggest challenges in this era of social media and streaming, because there's so much stuff out there. It's so difficult to cut through the noise. But when I analyze this scene and I even look at like the artists that I listen to and the artists that I gravitate towards, both new and like from my generation, you find that you have to be authentic, and the truer you can remain to who you are and your purpose and your what you stand for, it's a longer trek if you're not necessarily making commercially viable music. But even commercial viable music, when it comes down to the hits, like you know as well as I do, there's a lot more that goes into a record becoming a hit than just like, Drake, for his, being renowned around the world and for the name recognition that he has around the world, they're still spending millions of dollars to promote and make sure that his project is out. Like, his new album came out today. Like they renamed the Scotiabank Center to the October. You know what I mean? Like they've spent millions of dollars. So there's that you're competing with. But as an independent, the only thing you have is your credibility. And I have a fan base that has stuck with me through the years. A fraction of Drake's fan base, but nevertheless, they're fans of who I am. And I think that relying on them to kind of spread the word of the music that I'm releasing, and their appreciation of what I do, it keeps me focused on just being authentic to myself. Because I'm at a stage in my career where I'm not necessarily, I mean, not to say that I wouldn't want new fans. I'd love to have new fans. Otherwise, I wouldn't be releasing music, because I have something still to say. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily counting on becoming the next Drake in that capacity. I'm more so want to connect with people, with like-minded fans who love the style of music that I produce and that I put out. And that's my focus. And I try not to be distracted with trying to make a hit record. Cause I tell people all the time, I'll be in the studio and be like, you play a song like, yo, that's a hit. That's a hit record. I'm like, a hit record isn't a hit record until it becomes a hit record. Drake has put out records that, people think are hits that are, to me isn't a hit record. I mean, it's, maybe it's got millions of streams, but I don't think that it's good. You know what I mean? So it's all relative, man. I think at the end of the day, in this era, it's obviously about marketing, your team, your ability to get your music in front of new people, like you have done so many times in your career. And then being authentic, being your authentic self as an artist, and being that you'll continue to put out music regardless of whether it's 1 or 1 million, and it's something that is a calling. I think that's what keeps me on my path.
What's the latest single right now?
I actually have a new single. I'm here at the studio right now to mix it. It's coming out. Like I said, Dangerous Art is volume 1. That was the tribute to my hip hop fans. Volume 2, I have features, which is, to your point, this is more so me and my producer bag, where I'm doing songwriting and production for other artists. The next single I'm going to be releasing off Dangerous Art Volume 2 is a song called Something About You, and it features an artist by the name of Shahai Taruko. She's the lead singer of a band called the Soul Motivators, who are doing tremendously well. They just came back from a cross Canada tour, and they're only growing their fan base as musicians. They're a great funk band. So that's going to be the next single that will be coming out October 17, 18, the 20th. And then I've got songs featuring Jordan. Shouts out to Jordan.
You know what? I got to jump in there. I am so happy and so proud of Jordan this year. I don't know what juice he's been drinking, but his voice amazing, his songwriting amazing, the music he's brought out this year. Like, he is the comeback kid, and I say kid as respect. He is the comeback kid of 2023. I am just loving every aspect of what he's doing right now.
Oh yeah, and we've got a heater. We've got a heater in the chamber, ready to drop on this album, on this Dangerous Arts Volume 2. It's called "Girl You Should Know," and it's straight R&B ballad, not really like an up-tempo ballad anthem, dedicated to everybody who has that special someone, that loyal ride or die. And Jordan, just it's magic, so I'm really excited for people to hear that this next volume. And then I'm continuing to record. Like, Dangerous Art is a concept, you know what I mean, as far as what it embodies what music represents. Music is a tool. It could be used as a double-edged sword. It could be used to harm. It could be used to hurt. It could be used to heal, and I think that the power, once artists recognize that power, it's really a matter of, like, how do you choose to use that weapon? And I always try to use it as a way to enlighten, but not in a preachy way, but just in a human way that we could, we can all relate to, but still keeping the essence of hip hop and R&B as well. So this project is kind of a continuing series to demonstrate and try to bring more to the forefront the positive aspects of our culture that I think a lot of times don't really get the acknowledgement that it deserves, because everybody's looking to party, and I shouldn't say everybody, but there's a lot of people kind of just want to dwell on the negative aspects of the culture, and mainstream has a habit of platforming that kind of negativity. I want to reflect the opposite of that with my vibe and my music, and the artists that I collaborate with. We're all on that same plane. So
I need a favor. First off, any chance you're going to be doing some shows for this music? And two, if you are going to do shows, if you're going to do shows, can we please get some merch? Because my t-shirts are worn out, and it's not like I can just find them anywhere. So I got to get it from y'all. Is there
Yeah.
any way we could get some new merch out, please?
There will definitely be some Dangerous Art merch. If you look at the logo on my Dangerous Arts album, Volume 1, the D with the dart, it's basically Dangerous Art abbreviated, but I wanted to have a creative logo representation of it.
Mhm.
And so finally, now that this project is out, we've had some kind of like some delays, just personal delays that I was dealing with. But when this new project drops, there will be merch coming along with
Good.
that, and I will definitely gift you with some merch. I
Yes.
appreciate the support greatly, brother.
Oh no,
Absolutely, I got you.
no. You should see my chaos shirt. My chaos shirt from what was this now? Gotta be 12 or 13 years. Like it's warm, and I was bigger at the time too, so I would be swimming in this shirt. So like I'm holding on to this stuff, but like it's not like I can just go out there and wear them anymore. So I keep trying to hunt,
Yeah,
cannot
yeah.
find, and it's like yes, please
Oh, I
get the
got
merch
you. I
shows
got you. I got you. 100%.
and
Yes,
shows.
sir.
Any chance you can be doing some shows?
Yes, sir. I got you, man.
Any chance you can be doing some shows?
We've got a couple of shows coming up, not in yeah, not we have a couple of shows coming up, but not
Mhm,
in Toronto yet. I'm actually working on once this project, the first single is going to be released, and then the volume 2 featuring the other songs will be coming out closer to November.
mhm.
And I'm looking to do a showcase featuring the project and the artist on the project sometime in November. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, I'll be performing with Cardi in Vancouver, and then we have another show out in New Brunswick at the beginning of November. So there's definitely shows coming up across the country.
I love this, man. And they said hip hop will never die, even though they wanted it to.
Never,
But
never, never.
and it is folks like yourself that made sure that it rose to where it is today, and helping the artists of tomorrow bring it to another level as well. Thank you so much for the interview. Congratulations on the new music. Looking forward to what you are doing. But again, thank you for allowing me to use my platform to tell your journey and continue to do that. Mad respect. And thank you again.
Brother, the feeling is likewise. I am eternally grateful. You know, anytime somebody spends their time, their hard-earned time to help me shine some light on this project, man, what can I say? I'm humbled by that, and I'm grateful to you for the work that you continue to do for the culture. So thank you very much, Rudy.